Hey guys, Prowl 1701 here. Today we're continuing our ranking from classic and modern Doctor Who of the seasons and series from worst to best, and we are in the top 10 at this point. Today we are talking about number 8 on that list, which is Series 1 of modern Doctor Who. And isn't that some beautiful art by Lee Binding? He does such a great job. That looks phenomenal. Christopher Eccleston as the Ninth Doctor is fantastic. What a great Doctor to usher Doctor Who into the 21st century on television. He has this really good mix of being able to be comedic and be serious, and to be able to switch between them just on the fly and naturally. I really enjoy him in this season. And then I really like Billie Piper as Rose, especially in Series 1. She's really good here. One of the things I like about Series 1 is I don't think it has any bad episodes. I think every single episode is good to one degree or another. Rose is fantastic. What a great way to bring Doctor Who into this century and to grab people's attention. I mean, you bring back a classic Who villain, but not a classic Who villain that's overdone. Not one that's just, the Daleks or the Cybermen or the Master. You pick another classic Who villain that's been seldom used. And not only that, you pick a classic Who villain that was basically created by the greatest writer that Doctor Who has ever had, in Bob Holmes. And really, Rose shares similarities with Spearhead from Space. And I think if you're going to bring Doctor Who back and you're going to take, a couple cues from a classic Doctor Who writer, why not the best one that's ever been? And I don't think Rose rips off of Spearhead. It's more like I feel Rose has a couple homages to Spearhead. Because Rose is very much its own story. It very much has its own identity. And it does a good job of bringing in a new generation to Doctor Who. So it's got things in it to please classic Doctor Who fans and stuff that we can point and go, ah! But it also does a good job of introducing you to the show and all of the concepts behind the show without you having to have knowledge of classic Doctor Who to make it work. And it does it without just giving you this big exposition dump of, 26 years of canon dumped right into your lap. It does a good job of parceling that out over the course of Series 1 and even later seasons, to where slowly you get that background information. You just don't have it, you don't have 26 years of history dumped on you in the first episode. It does a really good job of that. I think Chris and Billy have good chemistry together. I like a lot of the other cast in it. Like, I like Jackie Tyler. I enjoy some of the humor in that. Wow, anything could happen. No. I love that. It's got some good humor, and I love when Christopher Eccleston's getting choked by the hand and he's just... He does it in this very comical way. I'm the doctor, by the way. What's your name? Rose? Oh, nice to meet you, Rose. Run for your life. But it has those very serious moments in it, too. And I enjoy when the Autons come to life and start breaking stuff. Again, a nice little homage to Spearhead when they're breaking display glass. I like Rose. It did everything it needed to do. End of the World is good. I enjoy it. I know some people don't, but I like it. I really like the Tree Girl. I feel like her and the Ninth Doctor actually had a nice little rapport going there. You could have seen something coming out of that. The actress playing her does a phenomenal job. I really like that one. I like that it went with something like the destruction of the Earth so early in the show's run, too, to really let you know, hey, Doctor Who, big things can happen here. I enjoy that one. The Unquiet Dead I consider to be the scariest episode of Doctor Who ever made. It's the only one that really unnerves me, where if I watch it, I have trouble sleeping at night. Something about the way it's filmed, especially with the zombie characters, the way the actors perform those characters, the way their voices are done, the way the makeup for them is done, all of that's a perfect storm that creeps me the heck out. I've only watched that episode like 3 times. I can never really go back and watch it. The World War III one is good. It's 2 of the weaker ones for me, but it's still good. I like the fact that the Slitheen kind of harken back to classic Who. They have kind of a silly design, which I think would have been right at home in classic Doctor Who. Like, especially like 80s Who, or even 60s Who. They would have fit right in with that design. So I feel like it was purposely trying to homage classic Who there. And it does it well, and I enjoy the story. Again, it has its humorous bits, but it has its serious bits, you know. Harriet Jones, oh yes, okay. I enjoy the Harriet Jones bit. And then I like when the doctor's figuring out what planet they're from, narrows it down. Tell me that, narrows it down. And we have Rexacorcophallipatorius. I love that. Christopher Eccleston just has that wonderful Tom Baker grin that I love. And then we have Dalek, which is my favorite Dalek story of all time. My favorite Dalek story is a modern Who Dalek story. And I love Dalek. It's never been as personal between the Doctor and the Daleks as it is in Dalek. And I love that Dalek perfectly shows an audience just how deadly one Dalek is. Forget an army of them. One. And to me, stories with only 1, 2, or 3 Daleks does a far better job of showing how deadly a Dalek can be than shows where there's like millions of them. Because, you know, the Doctor has to win, so he usually has to do some Deus Machina at the end where he blows them all up. I mean, even Evil in Power, as phenomenal as they are, fall into that trope. So when you have one, you can stop them in more conventional ways without having to Deus Machina it at the end. Even Resolution, which I enjoy, does a really good job working with only one Dalek. Now, the way they kind of stick the microwave things to melt his armor is a little silly, but it does a good job of showing you how dangerous one Dalek can be. And Dalek does that better than any Dalek episode. And just Christopher Eccleston's performance here. This is some of the darkest we ever see his Doctor get. You know, when he realizes that thing can't fire, that laugh, fantastic, oh, fantastic, that pure joy almost on his face of, I've got you at my mercy. You know, he could get right up in his face, the anger, that whole scene he has with the Dalek right there at the beginning. That back and forth, that rage. He's more like a Dalek than the actual Dalek is in that scene. It's wonderfully, wonderfully shot and acted. And even later when they talk over the communications, you know, why don't you just die? And the Dalek tells him, you know, you would make a good Dalek. You know, it's interesting to see the sides of that coin blurring there. The lines between the Doctor and the Dalek blurring a bit. That's fascinating to me. And even Rose points that out, you know, right there at the end. What are you turning into? You know, it's not the one pointing the gun at me. What are you turning into? I love Dalek. It's one of my favorite Doctor Who episodes. And then, what do we got next on the list? The Long Game? Is that right? Yeah, The Long Game. I like The Long Game more than most. The story itself is but it's some of the stuff it does that I really like. I love the fact that we actually get to see a failed companion in it. The fact that not everyone is cut out to travel with the Doctor. We see a perfect example of that here when, whatever little Fauntleroy's name is, when he can't hack it as a companion. He's not a good companion, you know, he's selfish. And the fact that the Doctor didn't choose him, Rose chose him. The Doctor just let him come along, but Rose really picked him to show that, you know, the Doctor is actually very careful about who he picks to go with him a lot of times. Not always, but a lot of times. And the fact that it shows a perfect example of the Doctor not cleaning up his mess, causing problems later, which is not the only time this has happened in Doctor Who. We see this again with the 11th Doctor in Series 11. But here, the Doctor not sticking around causes what happens with the finale, which is what ends up causing him to have to regenerate. So a lot of times the Doctor's good intentions, but not following through on that, bites him in the butt, and this is a good example of that. So I love those things more than the actual story. The story is just but I love the fact it does those things so well. And then we have Father's Day, which I enjoy. It's not one I go back to a lot, but I do think it's a good one. I think the guy who plays Rose's dad is great. I like him. And when he comes back later, I like him, but I really enjoyed him in this one. It's a fun little, wonderful story. I don't really get the bat things, and the CGI effects on the bat things have aged very badly, but I'm willing to overlook that. It's Doctor Who after all. And the fact that they only show up here and no other story ever is a little weird, but you know, plot convenience. But at the end of the day, it's still a touching and fun story. Oh, The Empty Child and the Doctor Dances, of course, highlights of the season. Stephen Moffat is one of the best writers for Doctor Who when he doesn't have the weight of Doctor Who and Sherlock and that 1010 movie on his shoulders, and he's having to just split his attention 50 ways, and when he's not being too clever for his own good. He writes some of the best stories in Russell's era, and those stories are some of the best stories in all of Doctor Who. And it's a wonderful two-parter. It's wonderfully shot. It's wonderfully acted. It introduces Captain Jack. I love Captain Jack. John Barrowman is just so great in that role. I was so happy when he came back in Jodie's era. I love this two-parter. I love everything about it. I love the guy who plays Dr. Constantine, too. He's phenomenal. But just the concept of, once again, taking something ordinary like a child and making them scary. When Doctor Who takes something ordinary and makes it deadly like that, something Moffat is phenomenal at. It is Doctor Who at its best. Doctor Who's at its best, I think, when it's doing horror usually. And that is a perfect example of it right there. And then, of course, it has Eccleston's Everybody Lives speech, which is one of the best speeches in all of Doctor Who. And that's down to, 1, the writing, and 2, the performance. The writing of that speech is phenomenal, and Eccleston just nails it. That is quite possibly the happiest you ever see the Ninth Doctor, and it's a phenomenal, phenomenal two-parter. And then after that, we have Boomtown, which I like. Boomtown is very underrated for me. It's a great sequel to the World War III one. My nose is itchy. I think the actress who plays the surviving Slitheen, she's really good there. And Boomtown, again, it mixes its humor with its seriousness really well in the episode. I love when the girl's confronting her about everything that's happened to the project. Well, what about when so-and-so died? We slipped on an ice patch. Well, his head got cut off. It was a very slippery ice patch. Well, what about so-and-so? Oh, my brakes failed. That's a serious scene, but it's done in a kind of comical style that amuses me, which I like. Even the scene when her and the Doctor are having dinner. During the course of that scene, it changes from serious to humorous, back and forth, back and forth. It's such a well-written, well-shot episode, and the way the humor and the seriousness interplay back and forth is just so well done. I love when she keeps trying to teleport away, and the Doctor's just like, with the Sonic, just grinning about it. She tries to leave, and he's... It's hilarious. I don't understand how anyone can't like Boomtown. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. And then the finale is good. It's a little dated, especially part 1 with all of the mid-2000s game show references. It's honestly more dated than some of the stuff in Classic Who. That really dates it. But it's still good. I love the finale when the Doctor realizes it's the Daleks and he still flat out says, "Rose, I'm coming to get you." That whole speech is good. I love part 2 when he's doing everything he can to, stop the Daleks and buy time. It's crazy seeing everybody else on the station die just to give him time, including Jack. I love when he sends Rose home. That holographic message he leaves her is beautiful. Especially that part at the end when he turns and looks right at her. He tells her to have a good life. That's a beautiful scene. Really well done. Lee Binding did a really good painting of that, I think, one time. It's really good. And then the fact that he won't press the switch at the end, which really, when you have in context of everything from the 50th, and the fact he's already pressed that button once before in the Time War, and that he refuses to kill his other home, which is Earth, coward every time, that really puts that in context. If you go back and rewatch it now, knowing everything about Day of the Doctor, exactly why he won't do it, he says, coward every time. That's a beautiful scene. And then his regeneration is really well done, especially for the time. I think it's probably the best regeneration of modern Who. It's good without being super over the top. And it's the first time the Doctor ever regenerated standing up that we ever saw, which is such a neat concept, but it never happened in Classic Who. The Doctor regenerates standing up, which is kind of old hat now in the modern show. I want him to regenerate laying down finally again. But for the time, it was phenomenal. I loved the regeneration effect. I love the fact you see the face shifting even more than you do than later regenerations. And I enjoyed just a few brief seconds of Tennant. It's a phenomenal story. It's a phenomenal season. It's well written. It's got a great showrunner. It's got great stories. One of Stephen Moffat's best. Christopher Eccleston is amazing in the role. And Billy Piper is good as Rose this season. And it's got Captain Jack. I love Series 1. No bad stories in it. One of the best of modern Who, and one of the best of Doctor Who. So Series 1, I'd like to know what you think. Comment down below and let me know. I also have all the other fun stuff down in the details and the description to check out. Links to the Patreon, the Amazon wish list, and the P.O. Box if there's anything you want to send me. I want to give a shout out to Stephen Crane. I appreciate his continued support, as I do the support of all of my patrons. And most importantly, thank you for watching.